We're driving a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 4xe. Coming up, we're going to see how Jeep's plug-in hybrid Wrangler fares off-road. But first, information explosion. Yes, this Wrangler 4xe costs more than 67 grand. That's more than double the price of a base Wrangler 2-door. Wow, let's begin with interior.
Everything about this screams, let's take this off-road on an adventure. This media cover, in case you have the doors off and there's a lot of dust going in here. The switches for the doors are over here so that you can take the doors off.
The grab bar, which I'm sure you'll make good use of at some point.
And these big rugged knobs for the HVAC and volume control.
Rubberized for easy gripping with gloves.
It all says, let's go have adventures.
Yes, I previously noted how expensive this particular Wrangler is, and oftentimes as vehicles get more expensive, they get a little bit softer inside. Not here. It does not feel premium. Also, it's pretty nice having a hard surface for cleanability afterwards, because this thing is going to get messy. In terms of space, if I'm seated behind my ideal front seat position, there's enough knee clearance, and depending on how you have the top set up, headroom goes from more than adequate to infinite. There's a bit of a hump for the middle position, but if you wanted to throw a kid there between some adults, I think that'd work. As for cargo space, reading the materials, it says there's 27.7 cubic feet. There's an adequate amount of space back there for carrying cargo.
I love vehicles that have underfloor storage, and this has a little bit. It's primarily being used to hold the charging cables right now, but you could throw something more valuable in there if you'd like.
There's also a bunch of tie downs, so if you're gonna go bashing around on the trail and you've got stuff like a cooler back there that you don't want flopping around, you can definitely bungee it in place. Kiddo, how is it getting in and out of this Jeep Wrangler Rubicon? Here we've got rock rails, and those provide some valuable function when scraping the bottom of your Wrangler over rocks. But if you got a little kid, you might be wise to give a step option. What about car seat install?
The latch points are super exposed. The door opening was adequate. Easy peasy.
The receptacle for the seat belt, it's like a shy groundhog where it doesn't really want to peek out, so it's hard to get your hands on if you're trying to reach around a child to get that connected. As for safety, the NHTSA rates the Jeep Wrangler 4 stars overall. For the IIHS, it's generally good. However, it's marginal for the small overlap test and marginal for rear passenger side impact head protection, because you do not get side curtain airbags in a Jeep Wrangler. That's a feature we do like having in our Bronco. They do have side curtains because they've got kind of a bar here. In the Wrangler, you've got front airbags and you've got front seat side airbags. That's it. Automatic emergency braking is optional, as is blind spot warning. And then lane keeping assist, you cannot get that on a Jeep Wrangler. Not too many years down the road, we're gonna look back and think, oh, that's kind of weird to get a vehicle that can't, automatically scoot you back in your lane if you're momentarily distracted. What do we think, family? Is the Jeep Wrangler family friendly?
From a usability perspective, for sure.
From a safety perspective, we'll let you manage your own risk. But what do we know? We fly around in a helicopter as a family. Rear window test. All the way down. Armrest test, driving in a comfortable 8 and 4 position. I do wish this came out a little bit further, but I can reach. Very soft on the inboard. There aren't a lot of soft spots in here, but that is one of them. And then outboard, maybe could be a little bit more padded. For a Jeep, this is pretty comfortable. I'm gonna go 85% inboard, 70% outboard. Hey, would you like to see more videos like this where we review cars as a family, plus the occasional helicopter adventure? If so, feel free to subscribe. Style!
There's a Jeep ahead of us that keeps going out of its lane, so maybe lane keep assist would be a useful thing for them.
We found the use case. As long as we're staring at another modern Jeep, what do you think about the style of the Jeep Wrangler?
I really like the style. It's probably because I am inclined to like things that are retro.
Yeah.
And this looks old because it looks the same as it always has.
A lot of square lines, a lot of heritage. I really like a round headlight design. One thing I'd like to point out is that by total coincidence, the Wrangler 4xe that we're driving is in the exact same color scheme as the new backpack I bought.
Did you get footage of that, or are you just telling them?
Yes, I got footage. Look at it now. That color is High Velocity. It's about $500. And I'd like to point out that if you want to buy a Jeep Wrangler, the only color you can get for free is white. Every other color costs $500. This particular Wrangler has the Sky One Touch Power Top. It's a little more than $4,100, so it ain't cheap. But if you've priced aftermarket tops, that's pretty darn competitive. You can operate it up to 60 miles per hour. Here I am opening it, and here I am closing it again because we don't want too much noise. From the side, you might just think it's a hard top, which is a great deterrent for people who might want to break into your vehicle. Another aspect of the Jeep Wrangler, it's very modular. The rear windows, it's 2 levers, lift up, and they pop right out. You can flip the windshield down, though we didn't have time to do that. You can take the doors off, though we didn't have time to do that. There's no better way to commune with nature than to get blasted in the face with some of it while you're driving. One last thought, the Wrangler has this bar right here, and that is not present in the Bronco. This does make a good place to sit and hang out with your beloved daughter, but for a nice view upward, I prefer the Bronco. There's a lot to like aesthetically, I think, with the Jeep Wrangler, but what do you think? Do you like the style of the Jeep Wrangler? If so, if no, tell us in the comment section. In motion! During my freeway commute, I noted that actually ride quality is fine for a body-on-frame, rough and tumble SUV really made to live off-road. There's a bit of wind noise in here. Depending on your use case, if you live in a mountain town like us, where you're driving everywhere at 35 miles an hour, it doesn't matter. If you're driving daily 2 hours on a freeway at Autobahn speeds, this might be a problem. The steering, well, you can do this, right? Where that looseness becomes a problem is if you're doing those long freeway drives. You just have to make constant corrections, and there's a tendency for the vehicle to wander a bit. There is an aftermarket solution. They go from an aluminum to a steel steering box, and that's supposed to take up some of that slack and that kind of on-center deadness that you find in the standard Wrangler. I've also noticed doing back-to-back drives between Wrangler and our Bronco on our mountain road that if you're mid-corner and there's a bump, the Wrangler will tend to kind of porpoise a little bit, whereas the Bronco is certainly much more settled. The brakes in the Wrangler, I think, feel pretty good for a rugged off-roader that's also a hybrid. There's a lot of red flags there, and none of them manifest as bad brake feel. Okay, we have to talk about the most interesting part about the Wrangler 4xe, which is the hybrid powertrain. There's a couple different modes. I'm in E-Save right now, which prioritizes the gasoline engine. I can go into hybrid mode, and that kind of lets the vehicle figure out, does it want to use the battery now? Does it want to use the hybrid powertrain? And then I can go to electric. We're now in electric mode. Engine's off. If you charge it up to max, you get 21 miles of electric range. That may change if you drive in a very, very cold environment, but that's the EPA rating. If your daily commute is less than 21 miles, then you probably won't use any gasoline. Engine's still off.
You can't tell because it's so loud in here.
Oh, and let's activate max regen. It's not a full one-pedal drive mode, but as you come off the accelerator, it'll give you more of that electric regeneration. I find the switching back and forth between electric and gasoline power, or the combination of the two, to be pretty seamless. At low speeds, when I start to tip into the accelerator, I've noticed a slight delay, but it's intermittent. Overall, I think the 8-speed automatic transmission does a really nice job making smooth shifts, and the power, it feels strong when you want it to be strong, and it's quiet when you want it to be quiet. Okay, that's what I think about driving the Jeep Wrangler 4xe, but what does Sweetie think? Evie's at the wheel. We're going around some corners here. How do you find the steering in the Jeep Wrangler? Is it heavy or is it manageable?
It seems very, very light.
So no problem turning. And then that scenario where we kind of creep out with blind traffic coming both directions. Did you find you had enough power off the line?
It did feel like plenty of power.
That's where having that electric motor and that prompt electric torque really pays off. Any visibility issues?
Over my left shoulder, there is a rather thick pillar that I'm having a bit of trouble seeing beyond, but that's normal because I'm only 5'2".
But overall, pretty decent visibility, feels like a manageable vehicle?
Absolutely.
All right, Sweetie's comfortable. I'm getting back in the driver's seat. As long as you understand what a Wrangler 4xe does and it matches with your use case, it can make a lot of sense. But you know what makes even more sense? Taking this thing off-road. Okay, we've come to an off-road section that is fairly challenging. What I'm most curious about is taking the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon format, which is extremely capable off-road, and then adding some electrification to it.
That seems like it might be good.
Yeah, when people hear the term hybrid, they think, oh, I'm a Prius and I'm efficient. But here, that electric motor might have some real benefits. We're gonna see how far up we can get without using the lockers or the front sway bar disconnect. Those are features we've got here on this Rubicon trim. The Rubicon also has 10.8 inches of ground clearance, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, on-screen text. This is rocking BFG KO2s, and we just got a set of those for our Bronco, and this is kind of our first taste test of the KO2. By the way, if Evie looks distracted, she's monitoring the quadcopter. What's really neat is this trail cam. It's a $795 individual option, and you can spritz it like that, which is kind of fun. It shows exactly where your tires are going if you don't have a spotter, and this is a feature I wish we had in our Bronco. It is offered in the Bronco, but ours doesn't have this. Sweetie's Occupied Monitoring Quadcopter, having this to kind of help spot your way through stuff like this is absolutely invaluable. Yeah, we're slipping. Okay, so we're gonna go put it into 4 low, and then we're gonna activate the front and rear lockers down here and see if that helps us get moving. I'm gonna do a sway bar disconnect as well. And what that does is it allows the front axle to move more. You really want that axle to be able to kind of reach down and get onto the ground. So, okay, now we got some lockers activated.
Oh!
Like, immediately we get going.
That was so dramatic.
Very easy to manage that power. With that electric motor, it does feel like it comes on promptly. I feel like the KO2s are doing a good job, good traction. So our daily driver, when we're not in press cars, is a Ford Bronco. And if you're curious what we think about our Bronco, you can click up here. One difference I'm noticing is that there's a little bit more lateral shimmy. Are you feeling that?
Yes, I noticed I was getting nauseous when we were barreling down the dirt roads in a way I normally don't in the Bronco.
Having that live front axle, there's a little bit more play there. This is where you can get into arguing like, oh, Jeep's better than Bronco, Bronco's better than Jeep. And please do so in the comments section. But the bigger question is, what are you doing with it?
Totally.
Are you rock crawling? Is this your normal place where you need maximum articulation and like robustness? Then live front axle makes a lot of sense. Do you drive almost exclusively on road and then do a bit of off-roading on the weekends? In that environment, the Bronco makes a lot more sense. For off-roading and this kind of stuff, the Wrangler is fantastic. For our lifestyle, the Bronco is fantastic. Much like every time I've driven a Wrangler, I'm impressed with the Wrangler 4xe. Being able to off-road in silence would be cool. Approaching camp late at night, maybe you don't want to bother nature. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put it into electric mode. Windows down. Silent off-roading. We can sneak up on deer. Most importantly, I don't think going 4xe compromises the essence of Wrangler. It feels very much like a Wrangler, also electrified. All right, let's get back on road. Once again, if you use it as it's intended to be used, the Wrangler 4xe, I think, is a really great vehicle to drive. Moving onward to emotion factor. Let me take a quick moment to thank the sponsor for today's video, Flying Eyes Sunglasses. They make a lot of sense in a helicopter environment because these super thin temples that are very, very bendy fit really nicely underneath a headset so you don't lose noise cancellation abilities, but they also work great in a Jeep. If you're in an environment where you might drop your sunglasses or you might subject them to a lot of scratches and damage, the Resilimide construction is nearly indestructible, and these scratch-resistant polycarbonate lenses are definitely made to deal with abuse. Plus they're lightweight so they're comfortable all day long. If you would appreciate aviation grade eyewear, whether you're a pilot or you just live that adventurous lifestyle, click the link in the description below, use the promo code Micah to save 10% on Flying Eyes. What's the emotion factor here, sweetie?
Rugged off-roadness?
Even though it's a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, it is first and foremost a Jeep Wrangler, and in this case, Rubicon. When I think about the plug-in hybrid electric side of the equation, if you want to convince yourself that having a very cool Jeep Wrangler is a good idea, you could pretty easily talk yourself into the idea like, gas prices are so high that I think it makes a lot of sense for us to get the plug-in hybrid version, you know? I just don't want to be spending gas on my daily commute, that kind of thing.
That is really a compelling factor over the Bronco because our mileage is so terrible.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We are Bronco owners, and you're probably thinking like, well, here comes your bias review. When you type that, be sure to say biased, not just bias. I see that all the time. But the more important thing is that you cannot get an electrified Bronco, whether that's a hybrid or a full electric. I'm sure that'll be coming at some point, but not yet. I would say the only thing that hinders the emotion factor of buying your Jeep Wrangler 4xe is the price. It is not cheap. So yeah, I think there is definitely an emotion factor here, but what do you think? Are you feeling emotionally drawn to buy a Jeep Wrangler or even a Wrangler 4xe of your very own? If so, you might need to sell your current vehicle first. If you want to know what your current vehicle is worth or how much you should spend on your Jeep Wrangler 4xe, click the Kelly Boo Book pricing link in the description below. It just got much louder in here. We're on the freeway. Remarks! Remark number one, infotainment. The standard screen is a 7-inch screen for the Jeep Wrangler lineup. In here, it comes with the 8.4-inch screen.
It is easy to use. The icons are very crisp and clear. I happen to like the color scheme of it, and it's organized in a way that I find very intuitive and user-friendly.
Down here in this region, there is a little bit of a kind of a button farm. Mute is next to max regen, is next to stability control off. Figuring out what all this stuff is can be confusing initially. By the way, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone connectivity both come standard. Kiddo, it's time for the Muzio family smell test. Tell me, does the Jeep Wrangler smell good, bad, or just okay?
Good answer, just okay. But it's
Better than bad, just okay. That was the Muzio family smell test. All right, let's talk about engine choices. The standard engine is a 3.6 liter V6. Then there's a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. There's also a 3-liter V6 diesel, and then a 6.4-liter V8 that only comes with the Wrangler Rubicon 392. And with the exception of the V6 with that 6-speed manual, 8-speed automatics come across the board standard. Then there's the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged plug-in hybrid we've got here in the 4xe. Charge times on a standard outlet is about 12 hours. Use a level 2 charger, and it's about 2 hours. The 4xe is only available as a 4-door. Interestingly, it's more than 700 pounds heavier than a 4-cylinder Rubicon 4-door. Regardless of engine, the 2-door can tow up to 2,000 pounds, and the 4-door Wrangler can tow up to 3,500 pounds. Sweetie, can I give you a trim recommendation?
Sure.
Our trim recommendation is based on which trim will give you the essential features you would regret not getting, but at the lowest possible price. We're going to recommend the Sport S trim that starts around $34,890. That's for the 2-door, and it includes that 7-inch infotainment system, power windows, and power door locks. To that, I'm going to highly recommend you get the technology group that adds automatic climate control and smart key access, a feature I will not live without. I'm also going to suggest getting the advanced safety group that adds automatic emergency braking and adaptive cruise control. Add another $495 for any color you want, assuming you want a color that's not white. And finally, most folks are going to want an automatic transmission, so add $2,000 to get that 2-liter turbocharged engine because it automatically comes with the automatic transmission. Better torque, better fuel economy, automatic transmission, get that 2-liter. Okay, and as long as we're adding things, I would suggest getting the anti-spin rear differential for $795 because nothing's more embarrassing than getting stuck because you've got fully open differentials on your Wrangler. Grand total for all of that stuff on a 2-door Sport S Wrangler is $39,230, not including destination charges. Going from a 2-door to a 4-door adds $3,500 to $4,500 depending on the trim. As for the competitors, it's the names you would expect. Toyota 4Runner is a big one. The other logical competitor would be the Ford Bronco. Did we miss any remarks? If so, tell us in the comment section. Synopsis! In thinking about the essence of the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 4xe, it is authentic, it is innovative, it is seasoned, and it thrives in a challenging environment. To me, it is the George Miller of SUVs. George Miller's the guy who directed Mad Max Fury Road, and it is top of mind because I just read a book all about the production of that film. It's insane. Definitely worth a read. Family, I think we've done a good job reviewing the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 4xe. I think I've said it correctly every single time. May I have a 5? And a 5?
Phew.
And you can get your high five. Bam!